Hello and welcome to Voices of Parenting podcast. I am so glad you're here. My name is Mussi Diskin. I am an advanced nurtured heart approach trainer. I am a parenting coach. I am also an inner wealth coach, which means that I help people rediscover and connect to the people that they truly were all along, but may have gotten forgotten along the way. So to find out more about me and what I offer, you can check out mussidiskin.com. I would love to connect and I would love to hear your feedback. Reach out to Energizing Hearts. Thank you for being here, and I hope you enjoyed today's episode. Hello, everybody. We are back today with Dr. Kathleen, friend, child psychiatrist from Tucson and now Colorado. We just heard in the last episode we did that she's opening a new practice in both states. So go listen to that amazing episode where we talk about Kathleen's whole story of how she got into the Nurtured Heart approach and what that looked like, how that evolved. So many nuggets of wisdom in there. And I'm excited to continue the conversation and have another episode together, specifically because we didn't get to touch on something you mentioned right at the end of the conversation, your greatness chair solution. You said your adaptation of Nurtured Heart. I like the way you said that. And I'd love to hear that story. I'd love to hear sort of how you came to that, where you came to that, and just all about it and whatever you have to share on that. So if you could dive in and tell us where that came from, we'd love to hear.
Yeah, great. I'm so happy to be back, Mussi, and continuing this discussion. So just in a nutshell, in that first podcast, I really talked about how I struggled with the approach at the beginning, and that really it was a tremendous change in myself and inner journey that I needed to go on. And I'm going to touch on some of that later when I get to the Greatness Chair solution, because that in many ways is about building some of those skills and capacities to actually implement Nurtured Heart approach. But before I do that, let me back the story up a little I wrote 2 books for children, one called The Greatness Chair and the other Sarah in the Greatness Chair. And the way this came about is I know that somewhere along the way in my training of Nurtured Heart, I know there was this concept of a greatness chair. Somebody else had introduced it. It was kind of I think it was sort of in my unconscious. And at some point it just bubbled up. And this is how it bubbled up. At the time I was working at a community mental health center here in Tucson, only seeing children. I'm trained as actually an adult and geriatric psychiatrist, but when I came to Tucson, they hired me as a child psychiatrist, even though I never did the official training for that. But I love kids and I always did stuff with kids. So I was thrilled, like really? I knew I was in the right place the minute I started. So anyway, so I saw lots and lots of families, lots of kids. And one thing that I noticed that the children, none of them wanted to be there. I mean, I would sit back and like me, I was kind of excited to see the kids and I like the parents too, but I'm kind of a kid person. But yet the child in the room would be like just checked out, sometimes playing with toys if I was lucky, but they just looked ashamed. Why? Because their parents were doing exactly what they should do. They were coming to the doctor because they had a problem and they wanted help. Right? Wrong. Yes. I mean, yes. But I realized, oh my goodness, something has to be different. I can't stand this. I just can't stand how the child feels to always be hearing about the problems. Even though I completely understood where the parents were coming from, of course, and I wanted to help the parent. I mean, I still do. So one day I decided, it must have just come from the recesses of my unconscious, this greatness chair. And I thought, I'm just going to put the kid in a greatness chair. So the next patient walked in and I just said, we're going to do something different today. And everybody looked at me, the parents were there, maybe mom and dad. I don't remember the first one exactly. And I said to the child, I said, I want you to come over and sit in this chair next to my desk. And so fortunately, the child, I'm guessing that child was 7, 8, 9 years old, fortunately listened to me and sat in this chair next to my desk. And I think it was a him, I looked at him and said, oh my goodness, How did you know? You just sat in my greatness chair. So right away, I hijacked this kid. This kid thought, like, when does an adult do this? Right? Like, was he in trouble? And I'm saying, you just sat in a greatness chair. And so this kid is looking at me like, what are you talking about? And so I said, I can see you're confused. Like, what in the world am I talking about? And I said, so this is how I started it. I said, well, I would just like to hear about your greatness. And again, the child looked kind of like, what? I said, when you're sitting in this chair, I just want to hear all the things that are going right. Anyway, needless to say, I then, I coached the child to tell me something, positive about themselves. And what I noticed was the energy in the room changed. I think there might have even been a mom and a dad, two parents in that one. And I saw them relax. I saw all the tension drain from everybody's body, mine, the child, the parents. They were like, my goodness. And then the mom was like, I can tell you more greatness. They couldn't wait to tell me. And I thought, this makes sense. Like, what parent really wants to come in and talk about the bad things about their kids? Like, no matter what parents think, they deep down, they love their kids. They would like somebody to see something positive. And so we were off to the races after that. And so that's the birth of the greatness chair in my world. And so in that session, just to clarify, after we did that, of course, we circled back around to, what they were asking me to do but by the time we did that, everybody was relaxed and comfortable, and it wasn't a big deal. And so after that, I wrote this children's book called The Greatness Chair. And I really wanted to show kids and parents. I was hoping that parents and kids would read the book together. It was a little bit of parent education in disguise. And I wanted to show in that book how these little things that kids go through really add up. Like little things like you're talking too much, or quit running so fast at school, or why don't you have your pencil out, or whatever it is, these just teeny little things that don't seem like a big deal, how they actually build up for our kids. And in the book, this child goes through some of those ordinary corrections, really, and kind of blows up in a timeout chair and dreams that he's in the greatness chair. My alter ego in the book, Zoe, comes to show Avi, who is the main character, that there was greatness even in all those behaviors and all those things that he did that were being corrected. It showed the flip side, like talking too much, well, you're very friendly. And yet what's amazing to me is that when I think about that book, I think, how come nobody called me out on this? Like, well, wow, we're just supposed to let our kids talk all the time? Nobody, all these people who've read this book over the last 6 years, nobody said that. They were like, I'm actually surprised because, of course, as adults, we want to lead our children into, there's a time for talking, and there's a time and a place. And, when the teacher is trying to talk, we don't want you talking at the same time. But all I wanted the child to know was, well, this doesn't come from a bad place in you. Even though it might need to be redirected, it comes from this wonderful quality of you. So that was the birth of the greatness chair.
Oh, I love how oh my goodness, I have never heard that story, Kathleen, of how you started in your office. I may have read it in something, but chills up and down my body for that kid, for those parents, and for you in your office. Like, your office could be a place of light and love instead of such chalkboard negativity. Such a powerful moment. And I am hopeful that those listening, whether it's parents, teachers, clinicians, can make a greatness chair. And I know that that's, what's suggested in your book, in your books. But can I just say, guys, to go buy the greatness chair? It is now in English and in Hebrew and in Spanish, and it's on Amazon. And I've read it to high schoolers. I read it to parents. I read it to teachers. And of course, I read it with my kids. But the illustrations are beautiful, and it just it brings out what Kathleen's saying. Like, you did a fantastic job, Kathleen. It's a real work of art, and it's super potent and powerful. And yeah, I believe there's a reading of it on YouTube somewhere.
Could be.
So,
I think there might
anyway.
be. And then I kind of took it a little further with the Sarah in the Greatness Chair. First of all, I wanted it to be a girl character. You know, I wanted to give the girls a chance. And there's a technique in Nurtured Heart approach called the Sarah approach. And I built that out in the second book and tried to just show how you could take it a little further. And then what happened is, well, like I say, going back to my personal journey. So I'm getting all these downloads and insights and how to work in my practice, and yet I'm still fumbling with my own son. So, you know, I'm learning more about heart rhythm meditation. I'm learning about these energies in my heart. And I also learned about something called the 6 powers through the teachings of the I Am Heart, which is where I was learning heart rhythm. And I thought, well, maybe that can apply to Nurtured Heart approach. And also, one of the fundamental things I learned in heart rhythm meditation was how you have to build capacity, energetic capacity in your heart to not crumble when things come your way, when the tsunami of our kids or whatever life throws us. How do we stay balanced? You know, I talked a little bit about staying in the social connection network in the first podcast, but there are skills to learn how to bring ourselves to that place so we can absorb the energies coming towards us without losing our, you know, composure, all the things that we say we're not going to do that just go out the window. So I wrote a workbook called the Greatness Chair Solution, and I weaved together concepts from Nurtured Heart approach, heart rhythm meditation, and kind of how to do it, some introductory practices, and these 6 powers that I talk about that came from meditation, but I adapted them to the practice of NHA and heart rhythm meditation. I mean, it was an integrative process, and it's a workbook that takes parents through this and helps them build capacity in their heart to do this.
Yeah, it's such a gift to parents and educators and anybody out there working with kids, because if you take the time to really do the work in the way that the book sets it out, so it's 1 chapter a week and you're spending time doing the exercises and practicing with yourself, and then with yourself and your kids, and then, you know, walking your way through it, it's walking you practically and integratively through implementing the Nurtured Heart in this way that can't be done without our heart's participation. And if I don't know where my heart is and I don't know how to access it, or it doesn't have the capacity, like you were saying, that level of I don't have the capacity to stay with it long enough, you know, then I can try the tools and I can do lip service to them. But like your son, our kids aren't going to hear it. They're not going to feel seen. They're not going to feel heard without us learning this skill, this staying grounded, staying in our hearts. And so it's a really big gift for anybody that struggles like me, that I also had in my story, right? Like, my biggest impediment once I got it was doing it because of my own triggers, because of my own nervous system, because of my own dysregulation. And really that deep dive into the power that is in us. I always say, you know, like, our hearts actually inspired by Howard Glasser. I heard this from him first, but our hearts have always been feeling. Our hearts they are still beating today, every single day of our lives, through everything we've experienced, whether we experienced it consciously or subconsciously, and whether or not we've shut ourselves off from it and disassociated from it in our minds, or even in denial of it in our minds, and don't feel it externally and obviously because we've shut ourselves off from it. Our hearts never shut off, and they never stopped feeling, and they always had it, and they're still here. They're still beating. They're still nourishing us every single heartbeat with flows of everything we need. All our nourishment, our oxygen, our life, our energy, our flow, everything comes beat by beat by beat. Our hearts have been there for us, and that is a gift that we all have as long as we're breathing, as long as we're alive. It's here. and accessing that power. I think Kathleen's book does a fantastic job giving us access, giving us that key. So another suggestion, another suggested by for me. But yeah, Kathleen, tell us, what are you most excited about the book and about the process of getting it out there in the world?
Well, I really wanted, I just wanted people to find a way into their hearts, like you just said, because it sounds like we all kind of know. Okay, well, here's the thing. Let me just think about this. So I was always very impressed with this idea that, I mean, first of all, make no mistakes. Our minds are incredibly important. We need both the minds and the heart. Sometimes I think people get mixed up about that a little bit. Okay, like they think heart somehow is this, I'm going to just accept everything. And the heart is like that. The heart is big. The heart doesn't really judge. The currency of the heart is love. And love is, I mean, in its sort of purest form, energetic form, doesn't form a judgment. It doesn't have a yes or a no. Or it's something bigger than that. However, we live in the real world with real things, and we need our minds for discernment and judgment. I mean, our minds do that. Our minds are logical, they're judgment, they blah, blah, blah. They work, it all works together. But I love the idea of just at least sometimes letting the heart set the agenda and putting the mind in the service of the heart's agenda. Now, I know some people think that can go awry sometimes, but I have to say that just like you said, that Howard said, that it's all going on underneath, no matter whether we want to acknowledge it, because our emotional energy comes through the heart's energy. It's not we have emotional centers in our brain, but the heart's actually more powerful in this. There's more energy in the heart than the brain. There is, like science has proven it, there is more energy coming from our hearts than our brains, So managing it is a big deal. So I really realized, like, people will well, how do I get into my heart? Honestly, you know what the first step is? I know it's actually trying to feel your heartbeat. I mean, like connecting with your physical heart. I mean, there's a physical heart that beats, and then there is an energetic heart, that this EMF field that it creates, and depending on the size and shape of that field, we have different emotions and different qualities. And then there's a spiritual heart that connects us to the one, the all. So the heart hits all levels, the physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual. It is the connector. I mean, just to go off, I mean, it's, well, I could just wax enthusiastic, but basically, it connects heaven and earth. And that's not maybe what parents are thinking about, but it is, make no mistake, this is the path of whatever level you want to take it to. It's there.
Yeah. Yeah. And I can just say that learning for myself, learning to lead from my heart, and even not leading from my heart, but even just engage my heart in whatever I'm doing and whatever I'm saying, the difference in the response, both from people and also from circumstance, from the world. The way the universe responds to me is entirely different. It really stops being about which greatness word I use, and if I say the recognitions according to the way that nurtured heart sets them up, or if I remember to reset in the right moment, or if my rules are perfectly clear. When my heart is open and engaged, the message gets through. And there's actually this idea in Judaism about words that come from the heart enter the heart, and that's so real and true. So, like, more than worrying about how I'm going to say what I'm going to say to my kids, my work now is not worrying, but putting focus and intention in making sure my heart is there in the conversation, because if it's coming from my heart, that those kids with the BS radars, my husband's one of those. He's not going to he was so, don't use that approach on me in the beginning. Once my heart got activated and my heart was involved, he can't get enough of it. So when it comes from the heart, it's real, it's authentic, it's true, it's who we really are. So we're actually at time, Kathleen, and I want people to be able to find you. I want them to be able to find your books. Tell us how we can reach you, how we can find you, how we can find those books, and what to expect in reaching out to you.
Okay, well, as far as the books are concerned, it's you can go to Amazon, and there's 3 books under my name: The Greatness Chair, Sarah in the Greatness Chair. Those are the 2 children's books, and then the one for parents, The Greatness Chair Solution. And I just want to say that I absolutely tried to make this workbook parent friendly, like that you wouldn't have to spend hours and hours every week, because nobody has time. So I really was thoughtful about that in the book. But, there's a lot there. But I tried to make it in babies' bite-sized pieces. As far as getting in touch with me, I'm in the middle of revamping all my websites. So probably the best thing is to Google me, Kathleen Friend, MD. I don't think there's another one besides me. My old website probably should point to the new one, which was drfriend.net, just drfriend.net. And my new practice in Boulder, and also for telemedicine, is Integrative Psychiatry of the Rockies. I used to have Integrative Psychiatry of the Berkshires in Massachusetts, well, now I'm reinventing it here. And I do parent coaching with the Nurtured Heart approach, but also it's a functional medicine biomedical approach. So hopefully to either keep kids off meds or to rule out certain conditions that are not going to be affected and improved with medication, or to help medications work better. I mean, it's not an all or nothing. So that's what I'm up to, and that's how you can reach me.
I love that. Thank you for being here in our community and being such a great resource, both with what you've written and in what you still offer and continuing to offer and reinventing to offer new and improved. Such a resource and treasure and gift to me and to our community. So thank you for being here, Kathleen. I know we'll interface again. Until then, thank you for being on the podcast.
Thank you. I really always enjoy talking with you, Mussi.
Hey, wait, don't go yet. Take a minute to find the beautiful quality that you have, that you appreciate about yourself.